Ok. Et je pense que l'essence, c'est juste qu'il n'est pas pour recommencer.
Ah oui.
Et là, on n'avait pas le son.
Oui, par exemple, je pense qu'il ne s'est pas encore commencé. Mais...
Hello, Antia, Ellen, are you there?
Yes.
Yes, hi, we are there.
Great, then you could start, I would say.
Yes, Antia.
Yeah, sure. Okay. So I don't have a presentation, so I'll just I don't know, welcome you all to the 2025 edition of the EuMIGS lecture series. My name is Antia Perez Caramez. I'm the EuMIGS local coordinator at the University of A Coruña. The EuMIGS lecture series is an initiative of the EuMIGS program for students pursuing a double degree, but also open and offered as a joint course to regular students at some of the universities participating in the wider EuMIGS program. We've been preparing the lecture series since, I believe, a couple of years. And this edition, this 2025 edition, is coordinated by Ellen Brown from Linköping University and me. The program of the overall lecture series is entitled Decentering Migration, Approaches from the Global South, and it brings together researchers from a wide range of universities and research centers in a series of 10 sessions that will take place every Monday between the 13th of October, today, and the 15th of December. It will always run from 11:15 to 13 hours via Teams platform. I believe you have already received the flyer with the program and the details of each of the sessions, the lectures, and also some suggested readings for each session. And in that program, there's also a link to connect to each session. For today's sessions, we have Ibrahima Konate. I believe Melina will introduce him. We thank him very much for his participation as a speaker in the lecture series. The students Maria Boldock and Panagiotis Casadelis will act as moderators for the discussion later. So the idea is that the lecture will last about 40-45 minutes, and then it will follow by half an hour of discussion. If you agree, the idea is to record the lecture, not the discussion part, only the lecture, in order to include it later on the EuMIGS YouTube channel so that it reaches a wider audience. I think this is the first lecture is a special one because it will be held in a hybrid format. So many students are there in Salzburg in the kickoff meeting of the EuMIGS program. But the rest of the sessions will be exclusively online. You will receive in the following days an email with instructions on how we're going to work for the following sessions. And I think that's all for now. I hope you will enjoy and learn a lot from this lecture series. I don't know if Ellen would like to add something else to this short presentation.
I think you covered everything, Antia, but we're very excited to kick off the course, and we're very excited for this lecture. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Ellen. And yes, enjoy. Thank you so much to all of you for your participation.
Hello. Yes. So it's my pleasure to introduce Ibrahima Konate. He's an independent researcher and also activist based in Dakar, Senegal, and his work bridges lived experience, collective struggle, and critical scholarship. Ibrahima Konate's engagement with migration and mobility is profoundly personal. After being denied a student visa to Europe twice, despite having secured a university place and having paid his tuition, he decided to take the route many are forced to, traveling to Libya in hopes of reaching Europe. He ultimately made it into the EU, but was detained and deported in 2022. It was through this experience of both mobility and exclusion that he became radicalized, turning his own experiences into a driving force for activism and critical research. Since then, Ibrahima has been deeply involved in building migrant-led networks across Senegal, Gambia, Guinea, and Mali, supporting returnees, families of the disappeared, and people affected by European externalization policies. He founded or co-founded several organizations such as Bozafi, the collective of families of the disappeared in Senegal, which now connects more than 2,800 families, and the Missing Voice Project, which documents the stories of the disappeared and marginalized migrants. Ibrahima is also part of transnational no-border initiatives such as Abolish Frontex, Migration Control, and Balkanbrücke, and he collaborates with scholars from across Europe and the African continent on research into return migration, mental health, and everyday resistance to border regimes. In his lecture today, titled Colonial Continuities in European Migration Governance and African Mobilities, draws on both his activist practice and collective research to reveal how European border externalization policies reshape everyday life in West Africa. He challenges us to confront how Eurocentric knowledge frameworks sustain these injustices and calls for an epistemic shift that recenters subaltern voices in both scholarship and policy. Please join me in welcoming Ibrahima.
Hello, everyone. Thank you, Beck Ekari, for the presentation. Yeah, my name is Ibrahima. I am Senegalese. I'm African and citizen of the world. I am independent research and Senegalese activist. I am also the founder of the project Missing Voice REER. REER is the Senegalese language, descent for the missing. Yeah. A platform that brings together returned migrant, refugee, and the family of the missing migrant across West and Central Africa. Yeah. But my personal journey has been marked by migration for more than 10 years. I crossed different countries of Maghreb, Turkey, Evros Island in Greece, Lampedusa, and Ceuta. Experiencing this pushback from Greece to Turkey, Spain to Morocco, and Italy to Libya before being deported to Senegal in September 2022 through the criminal organization now as the international organization IOM. In 2014, in the Gaza civil camp in Ceuta, Spain, I was kidnapped and imprisoned by the Spanish Gaza civil and the Grupo Reserve and Seguridad Jurisi. During 6 months of the detention, I was abused and tortured every morning and evening. They collect all my sensitive data, fingerprint, saliva, blood, and urine to register me as a person non grata in Schengen area and descend for the Interpol. I was handed over to the Moroccan authority, imprisoned me for 10 months with a trial of visiting right. I don't have the visiting right for 10 months. No, my family, no, my friend, no, anybody don't know where I am in Morocco, and later transferred me to Algeria, and Algeria put me in the prison the same 6 months. This maybe to go to the slide 3. Yeah, this experience allowed me to understand from both inside and outside what border truly mean, not merely as line on our maps, but as a reality that structure, control, and shelter life. This lecture contribute to the ongoing process of critical reflection within migration study, a process that questions the Eurocentric production and knowledge and call for epistemic justice. For me, my perspective emerged from live experience and activity research conducted from the global south, challenging the colonial hierarchy, the continue to shape who is allowed to produce knowledge about migration and who voice out silence. By connecting the reality of border externalization in Senegal with broader global system, I stick to decenter dominant narrative and foreground subaltern knowledge produced by migrants themselves. And this approach also resonates with recent decolonial perspective, shows a reorienting European Union border externalization study, a decolonial institutional approach 2020-2024, which called for the reiterating the issue of European border governance from the perspective of the global south. Like this work, my analysis seeks to shift the center of knowledge production from European institution and policy framework to the lived experience of migrant, return, and family directly impacted by border externalization in West Africa. Today, I would like to share a reflection on epistemic injustice in migration studies and on how European Union border externalization policy shape mobility in Africa, particularly in Senegal and West Africa. Slide 4, please. Next slide. By epistemic injustice, I refer to the situation in which certain knowledge and voice particularity tools of migrant, family, and Africa community marginalized or ignored in favor of Eurocentric framework. Three thinkers help use understanding this phenomenon. Miranda Fricker showed that epistemic injustice constitute a wrong done to people as novel was experience and expertise are systematical devalued. And anybody can act like the cumulative of knowledge, act like the coloniality of knowledge, which mountain of global hierarchy where knowledge production is dominated by the global north, reproducing logic of domination and marginalism. And Walker and Boni emphasize the importance of participatory research and the strengthening of capitalism, that is the ability of local community to act and contribute to knowledge production. For them, actively including marginalized community in research is not only a method, but a concrete way to promote epistemic justice by valuing situate and subtain knowledge from the global south. Next slide, please. My goal today is the twofold, both critical and academic, and practical and political. On one hand, I wish to show how Europe continues to reproduce colonial story, how European Union, because European Union boosts the same for this another area for the Europe. And for me, one on hand, I wish to show how European Union continue to reproduce colonial logic track migration management. This is not merely about observing migration flow or bilateral agreement. It is about understanding how both externalizing policy, water, maritime, land of digital perpetuate a hierarchy of power that center the global north will systematically marginalizing the knowledge need and aspiration of African population. Through the example of Senegal and West Africa, I will show how Frontex, the Gaja civil and digital visa system contribute to controlling mobility, restricting the autonomy of African states, and transforming migrants into subjects of surveillance rather than citizens, the time for the slave. On the other hand, my second objective is to invite you to rethinking research and migration policy by giving a central place to subaltern voice and circulate knowledge from the South. It is not enough to criticize Eurocentric framework. We must provide concrete alternatives through epistemic justice and participatory research. Example is the work of Walker Ebony 2022 demonstrate how activity involved marginalized community and knowledge production not only value that perspective, but also transform research into a tool of social justice and political transform. My approach combines live testimony, data collect, and track missing voice rare, and postcolonial land decolonial theoretic reflection to also of to offer a vision that connects experience, knowledge, and political action. And this conference aimed to the first analyze and expose the contemporary mechanisms of border control externalization situation that with a coloniality continued. The last puts the bordering of research and academic talk by integrating the voice of the migrant and marginalized community of as legitimate knowledge and by valuing participatory method that promote co-production of knowledge. It is this dual critical and participatory objective that will guide my presentation and the discussion that follow. Next slide, please. Example, to understand border externalization, we must return to coloniality story. During colonization, African mobility were strictly controlled. Colonizers decide who could move, where and who what kind of work, passport, travel permit, and native identity card are case example. European that create a hierarchy of life and knowledge, some people were considered worth of movement and full life, while others were deemed inferior with little or no social or political value. This logic did not disappear after independence. It continued under a neo-colonial form, where European migration policy determined who can live, who can move, and when can die. And this is a very example for the Frontex. The European Guard Code in the border, and the same for the Gaja Civil in Africa, and the embassy in Africa, European Union embassy in Africa. Today, the European reproduce this control through modern instrument, bilateral agreement turning African state into Europa border guard. Frontex operation And sorry, my Wi-Fi is off. I will continue. Is okay?
Ibrahima, you can talk now. We hear you.
Okay. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Today, the European Union produces control through modern instrument, bilateral agreement turning Africa state into Europa border guard, Frontex operation extending Europa action into West Africa, migration pact and conditional funding link development into security cooperation. Example, JZ, IOM, and different organizations in different international organization funding by European Union is based in Africa. Next slide, please. Example in Senegal, since 2006, after the so-called Pirogue crisis, Senegal has signed several agreements with Spain and the European Union to limit departure. Joint Frontex Gaza civil operation along Senegal coast. This agreement raises a question of sovereignty. Who decides Senegal's mobility? The Senegalese government or the European Union? This governance illustrates contemporary neocolonialism. Africa is still seen as a space to be controlled in order to protect European border and African life. A hierarchy, some protect, others sacrifice. Border externalization in Senegal and West Africa goes beyond agreement and physical control. Is transforming every aspect of mobility, including digital and bureaucratic dimension. Physical control and joint operation. Since 2016, Frontex has developed joint operation in Senegal to control migration flow under the supervision of the Spanish Guardia Civil, lasting until 2018. In 2018, Frontex began negotiating directly with the Senegal government by passing the Guardia Civil. This marked the installation of the first official Frontex liaison officer in Senegal since 2019 for Frontex agents. Since 2019, 4 Frontex agents are present in the country. One at the Minister of Interior, coordinating migration policy and administration control. One at the International Airport, Senegal, monitoring departure and arrival. One at the Port of Dakar, tracking maritime flow and training port authority. And the last on the border between Mauritania and Senegal, monitoring land route used by migrants. It's not only the migrant, but the same for the citizen to the Senegal, Mauritania, because Senegal, Mauritania, you have the free movement. And now this free movement is break. And the Gaza Civil go beyond port, is operate directly within local community, rural areas, school, Islam, and the port of Dakar. It train local officers in the use of violence and repressive technique. It provides surveillance equipment, powered drone vehicle, and other tools. These practices show that migration control goes beyond maritime and border framework, is penetrate community, militaries, national space, and turn local agents into instruments of repression. The different application is the shift from Spanish surveillance to direct Frontex presence show of territorialization and modernization of migration control. The strategic network, interior airport, port, land border make unsupervised mobility almost impossible. The training in violence and the direct presence renews coloniality, a form of modern neocolonialism. The digital externalization and embassy control. Border externalization also include bureaucratic and digital control. European embassy in Senegal outside visa processing to private agency all applications must go to through this agency, most of which are not European, no European, often Asian or private. Applicants have no access to embassy premises. Their biometric data are collected by their agency. This data can be used for political purposes beyond the application control. And these things create an invisible yet effective barrier, even to who follow all the rules fast of systems that control and achieve their mobility and centralize high priorities way. Next slide, please. And our work with missing voice, REER, we have collected hundreds of testimony from families of migrants who disappeared at sea or along the road to Europe. Behind every number, there is a story of waiting, of silence, of no knowing, of mother from Saint Louis told me. One mother in Saint Louis. Saint Louis is the north of the Senegal, is the border to the Mauritania. My son left to find dignity, but now even our grief is invisible. Another father, the same city, another father said me, we become stronger in our own country. People look at us as if migration were a crime.
Ibrahima, you're muted.
This testimony reveals not only personal pain, but also the political violence of border externalization. This shows how European migration policy fracture community is social inclusive. Even from the bodies themselves, product themselves, for me, these stories are not only memory, there are forms of resistance and knowledge challenging the official narrative that reduce migration to number and control. Slide 9, next slide, please. Impact on daily life. Criminal zone and constant surveillance, the presence of Frontex and the Guardia Civil create a permanent feeling of being monitored. Even legal departures are tracked or punished. Economic and social pressure, young people feel trapped, no freedom to live, no step prospect at home. Pain and risk for family. Disappointment at sea, arbitrary detention, and constant control produce endless mourning and physiological distress. Invasive and privileged control of mobility, visa processing agency collect biometric data without direct oversight, restricting mobility even for rule-abiding individuals. And this is the colonial and neo-colonial continuum. The border is displaced far from Europe, yet local populations remain under constant surveillance. Migrants become controlled subject, no citizen. Life or hierarchy, some protect, others exposed to danger. The European Union and its agencies reproduce colonial logic using modern tools, drone, database, bilateral agreement, surveillance equipment, and training in violence. The tower epistemic justice in migration studies have long been dominated by methodological nationalism, which analyze migration only through the lens of the national state. ethnic-centered epistemology, which reduces migrants to ethnic category. And these two approaches are deeply Eurocentric. These speak about migrants, but reality with them. Epistemic justice means recognizing the legitimacy of knowledge producing by migrants, their family, and their community, giving space to testimony in research. Volume situate knowledge from the global south, deconstructing the hierarchy between the academic sphere and the migrant witness. Migrant narratives are not just empirical data, they are critical intervention capable of transforming how we think at sharp policy. And next slide, please. And the conclusion and open discussion, this essential point, European migration policy perpetuates a colonial logic that controls African mobility. But the externalization had control and tragic impact on the life of migrants, their family, and their community. The voice of the migrant and their family must be recognized and legitimate form of knowledge essential to retaking both research and policy. In line with recent decolonial and intersectional perspective, shows a reordering European Union border externalization study 2020-24, my contribution called for a shift in how knowledge about border and mobility is produced. Rather than studying migration from above, we must learn from the life experience and epistemic contribution of migrants and their community who have long been the subject, but rarely the author of migration knowledge. Migration is not a problem to be solved, but a fundamental human reality, a quest for dignity and the freedom. And the next slide, collective reflection. How can we build research with migration rather than about them? And how can we imagine migration policy based on people's rights and aspiration rather than fear and control? Thank you for all.
Thank you from there, from Paris.